And I'm Sharonda.
And this is Until Forever. This is a relationship podcast where we do not think that we're gurus. We don't think we're experts. None of that stuff. We just want to bring you along on our journey as we explore life as a married couple. We hope you're having fun. This is episode number 7. We're in our series right now called Marriage in the Church. We wanted to go to church for a little while. That's both of our roots. And we want to talk about some stuff that, needs to be talked about.
Definitely.
Now, I said last episode we're going to step on some toes. I don't know if we did or not. Let us know in the comments. But this time, we may really step on some toes. And full disclaimer, ask me, do I care?
Oh my gosh.
I don't care. This is our experience. This is our perspective. We're going to talk about it. And hopefully you'll learn from it. If you don't learn nothing, teach us. We're open to learn. We're hoping to learn something.
Talk to us.
I think so. So, if you want to know how to find us, here's our information right across the bottom there. Feel free to, you can't click on it. I ain't that good yet, but it can lead you in the right direction. So, hopefully you're following us, you're commenting on our stuff, you're sharing it, you're listening to us on every platform that we're on because we want to be able to reach you.
Yes.
So, tonight, I don't know when you're watching this, but we're going to talk about the 3-letter word that is a bad word in the church.
I guess it is kind of taboo.
Well, when I grew up, it was a bad word. If you said sex, you might as well be using one of them 4-letter words you're not supposed to use. Because I'm telling you, it was taboo. It was no. And that's how we grew up. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to ask my lovely wife, because I want her to start. What was your experience? Wait a minute. I don't want to say it like that. How did you learn about sex in the church?
How did I learn?
Well, 9 times out of 10, you knew about it before it was brought up. But what was your experience in the church dealing with sex?
I mean, you are not supposed to have sex until marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that was my goal. But then you kind of hit the teen years and the preteen years and you realize everybody's not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the consensus is you're not supposed to fornicate, you're supposed to wait until marriage.
Right. Okay.
It's very taboo. You shouldn't be looking at anything, pictures, videos, reading anything, and, don't do anything. Don't even kiss, because feelings can start to happen that arouse you to want to have sex.
Mm-hmm. This is my experience. Yeah, I could sum it up in 4 words. Of course, I'm going to say more, but initially 4 words. Sex bad, God good.
What?
Sex bad.
That sounded so caveman.
God good. And it's a caveman theology, honestly, because it really the way I think, I think that it should have been was sex is good. It is also sacred. It is also something that God meant for us to do within these confines, within this criteria. And I think that because it wasn't expressed that way, that it caused a lot of issues. And I got some wild theories. I'm not going to share them all, but I think that a lot of I don't want to. Okay, I think that
you said ask you, do you care?
You're right. Don't get nothing started. I'm think that a lot of issues surrounding sex in the church happened because of the negative stigma that hangs on just the mention of the word. Like, we never, especially like in youth groups and stuff like that, it was just, don't you do it, don't you ever do it, don't you ever do it. Stay away from, if you think about it, start praying to the Lord. Don't ever even think about it. If you see a girl and she's attractive, get rid of those feelings, push them, throw them in the trash. You're not supposed to feel like that, blah blah blah. And that is the worst thing you could tell a teenager who is having these budding emotional, hormonal type of things happening in their body, is that they're not supposed to feel like that.
That's very true. Because, okay, you're the first and only person I've ever had sex with. And
me too.
Okay, that's not true.
No, it's not true.
But because of the guilt and shame from having sex before marriage, when we got married, I still felt like it was like this thing that nobody should know about. Not that we're publicizing our sex life, but do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I was so used to hiding that my feelings for you, physical touch, in public, like holding hands, kissing, anything like that. That once we got married, it was kind of like, well, it took a very long time for me to be comfortable. And Melissa Fredericks, Mrs. Kev on Stage, years ago, she wrote a book and did some discussion about it. When they first started their podcast, the Love Hour podcast, before they revamped it, she did a video where she discussed that, her and Kev on Stage. And she was just talking about, like, sex was so taboo in the church growing up that she didn't know how to be sexy for her husband. And I honestly think that is a huge issue in the church. We drive down our youth's throats that sex is bad and those urges and those feelings are bad, that they don't even know how to enjoy it as a husband and wife. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's like you said, it's a beautiful thing. God created the act for a husband and wife to enjoy.
Now, that being said, we're not saying that there should be a small group about the best ways, the best positions, and all of that. No, definitely shouldn't be. But within your marriage, you should feel free to express yourself sexually to your spouse, however y'all choose to do it. I don't have nothing to do with that. Neither does your pastor. That's between you and your spouse, and the Lord. Yes. But my thing is, we make it so taboo. Like, I grew up when, I'm feeling horny. It's like, that's from the devil. And it's not. It's not. That's a natural feeling that you feel as a young adult. Well, not as just a young adult, but our bodies crave sexual attention, and that does not mean you're sinning. And I think that some churches are so ill-equipped on how to deal with it, especially with teenagers, that they just put a big X over it and say you're not supposed to feel that. So then everything becomes, everything becomes off limits. You're not supposed, and not, again, you shouldn't be exploring your sexual desires as a teenager in the church. It's not what I'm saying. But you also have to not demonize those feelings. You have to let that teenager know that how you're feeling is natural. You're supposed to feel like that. But it's also a flesh desire that God is expecting you to sacrifice until the time comes when you find that one person that you're supposed to be with, that you can then express yourself sexually. Did I do that? Absolutely not. I should have, and I wish I did, but I didn't. And that's just the reality of it. But let me ask you this, because I do think that I don't know if I want to go there. I do think that a lot of sexual taboos that happen in the church derive from the demonization of sexual desires. What do you mean? I mean that a lot of same-sex interaction, especially between girls, happens at the slumber parties and the sleepovers because nobody thinks about that. At least back in the day. Maybe they thinking
People
about
probably
it
think
now.
about it more now.
But I mean, if I was to tell you all the stuff I knew about that went down at conventions from famous people, folks, big name preachers and people.
I mean, even Donnie McClurkin has said he had preachers passing him hotel room keys as he was walking off the stage from singing when he was younger.
And I'm just wondering, because we know that if we shelter emotion for so long and treat it like it's bad, that it takes root in that, so it becomes something negative and it becomes something that does not please and honor God. Did you know that when two married people are having sex, you're doing what God designed for you to do, and that pleases God? So you pleasing your wife is pleasing God.
Yeah.
That's Nutter Butters. But I think it's just been demonized. I mean, so how did it go at your church growing up?
I mean, we had a children's church.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think sex was ever just an individual topic. It was just, if it came up, it was just, dating is for marriage. Mm-hmm. I can remember being, probably like maybe 14, 15. And I was telling my friends at church, I want my first kiss to be special. And they laughed and were like, that's your first time. And most of them had already had sex. So I didn't even see the point of them having the sex talk with us at church because
y'all doing it already.
Some people were already active. A couple of people had already gotten pregnant, and they were like the older teens, like 18, 19. Clearly people that grew up in the church, they were just a few years older than me. And I think the teen pregnancies is kind of what sparked like, oh, we probably need to be talking about this more. I would say I probably got addressed more about sex in my home from my mother, not my father, from my mother more than anything. And she was very transparent with me and very honest with me about her experiences, about the need to wait, about it being special. And that was pretty much the bottom line for me. Although Corey likes to tell me I'm different, that I'm not the status quo, because that's all it took for me. But at the same time, when I did have attraction feelings, I did feel like, oh, I probably need to go on a fast, or you know what I'm saying?
You got to banish these feelings that you feel.
Yes. And I don't know that anybody else I grew up with at church felt that way. Hopefully, maybe they'll comment and say, but yeah, I think they did their best trying to just teach us to wait, but not really talking about how it's made for a marriage. You know what I mean? And for that matter, as a young adult, I'm not saying you have, like you said, like you don't want a small group where we're talking about how to have sex as a married person. But I do think, you should be doing something different. I mean, we have a whole book of the Bible, Song of Solomon, where he's talking about this woman's body and adoring her.
You said big, beautiful breastises. Triple B. He didn't say that. But.
We're taught, when I came to your grandfather's church, it was wear your sleeves to your elbow or longer. wear your skirts from your knees to your ankles. And it's like, I'm doing all of this so a man isn't enticed, because you can raise the skirt up.
Yeah, it's a lot easier that way, I can tell you. I don't know. And you're bringing up some really good points that all could be stretched out, because I think I think the church over sexualized women, and because it came so much of a woman should dress like this and not that, it kind of made the point of view that women are bad. like women are they're going to attract me to them, and I can slip and fall if she doesn't dress appropriately. And I think that is ridiculous. I think that's ridiculous. I think that instead of focusing on what a woman is wearing, you should be focusing on the heart of that deacon or whoever it is that can't keep his eyes where they need to be. He need to be reading the scripture, not watching Sister Blue Shirt as she walk around for offering. So I mean, I've
actually had that happen to me as a young woman, and a man in the church said something very inappropriate, and I said something to a man that I looked up to, and he was like, well, you did have some cleavage showing. And I was like, I mean, I don't know if you remember how I used to dress when I was younger. I used to wear like a tank top underneath the shirt, like trying to hide cleavage, or shirts like this. And so it's like, first of all, it doesn't matter what I was wearing. This is a grown man we're talking about, like somebody that was old enough to probably 10 to 15 years my senior. I also had another man tell me, oh, you have nice legs. And I just felt like that's like a very inappropriate comment to make.
Absolutely.
And like you said, like, where's the responsibility we're putting on the man?
It's not. It's not there. It's not there. And that has to change. And it has to start with our children. Like, I'm going to teach my son to honor a woman's body, to honor it in the way that, you know, this beautiful thing that is a woman, and her body was shaped and crafted. Huh?
Not a thing.
Oh, sorry. Was shaped and crafted by God. She looks like that because God created her to look like that. And the fact that God created something that can stir up so much inside of us and give us these desires is something that you can thank God for. Literally. Literally. It's something that you should be honoring God for. So even feeling attraction to a woman, that is something that I'm going to teach my son. It's something that you could thank God for. Like, that's literally a creation that God created. It's not something to be googly eyed at. It's not something to subject. It's not something to, you know, and definitely be man enough to be able to keep your eyes to yourself and keep your comments down. And if you're a man and you're telling a woman she shouldn't dress a certain way because it will entice a guy, like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Why don't you use that energy to tell a guy who's enticed and can't control himself to put on his big boy pants and act like a man and control himself? It's just that simple, I think.
I agree.
But I don't know. I think that, you know, sex in the church has such a negative, you know, feel, such a negative approach to it, that I think that is where a lot of sexual issues stem from. I would venture to say that a lot of church folks that are married are probably not completely satisfied within their marriage sexually, because 9 times out of 10, if that young lady grew up in church, all she was taught was to keep her legs closed and make sure your cleavage ain't showing.
True.
So then when it comes time for the bedroom, all you know to do is open your legs and show your cleavage, because that was the stuff you was told not to do. Not saying that somebody should be teaching you this stuff.
No.
But when you talk about it, when there are relations, like you said, sex talks. They have sex talks. I think it has to be sex conversations, and I think it has to continue. It can't just be one youth night out of the year, or every quarter of the year we have the sex talk. It literally has to be a conversation. How do you feel tonight? When's the last time you've had sexual urges? Like in the youth group that I'm a part of, I feel close enough to some of those youth to where I think we could have that conversation, and it has to be had. Of course, with parental consent.
Accountability looks like that.
Yes.
You are, and that's at any age. Mm-hmm. Accountability looks like asking the hard questions so that somebody understands this is not something to be shameful with and hide.
Right.
If I need help in this area, I'm not going to get it unless I talk about it with somebody. But at the same time, like you said, I feel like when you're an adult and you're leading youth, you're not sure. I mean, think about the variation of what some youth are exposed to and aren't exposed to. Mm-hmm. The innocence level. Some kids really are just oblivious to what's going on. And some are very, very aware of what's going on. And so it's kind of like in this group setting, exactly how much of this do I deal with?
Right. And, all that we've said, it kind of goes with our generation. This generation now,
child.
I don't know if there's a youth group that can handle it, because at 12, 13, sometimes even younger,
they already know more stuff than we do.
Yeah, and and to us, Destiny's Child, maybe even a little Michael Jackson, definitely Usher, these dancing groups, Janet Jackson was out there a little bit, that's who we was looking at. We had posters of them, and none of them doing anything as close to what Cardi B doing right now.
Well, no, but
they
what Cardi B is doing was coming on what is it, BET After Dark?
It was Uncut. Now look, let me tell you something about Uncut. No, I ain't gonna say it. That Nelly video.
I mean, Tip Drill would be a regular video at this point. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. And, Tip Drill has nothing
going on strike. They didn't want him performing in their city because of that video.
Tip Drill has nothing on WAP.
No. I can't believe they let them perform that at the Grammys.
Nothing on. And now they're at the Grammys doing these type of dances.
I was like, ooh, I'm glad my kids aren't in here right now.
So how as churchgoers, church members, how do we make sure that our children and our young people growing up, that their perspective and their view of sex isn't overly sexualization of women? I don't even know if I said that right.
I don't think you.
But you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like if I was 13, I would think that my girlfriend has to be like Cardi B. She gotta be ready at all times. She's gotta always want to have sex with me in whatever way that I want.
I mean, you don't even have to be 13 to think like that. It's some grown man out here thinking like that.
And all I gotta do is have money.
All I'm saying is, you're focusing on how do we address it with our youth so they have a healthy outlook as adults. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, you need to be able to address it at all age levels. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because I'm in wife groups where women are like, how often do you give in to your husband wanting to do it? Because I don't be wanting to do it that much. And it's like, you don't enjoy it?
Every day.
Oh my gosh.
It do. Do it.
No, it doesn't.
Submit yourselves.
I'm sorry, you guys. So it's just, these are Christian women, most of them, and it's kind of like they are very uncomfortable.
So, okay. You said one of the reasons they're saying they don't enjoy it.
I don't know if it's that they don't enjoy it or if it's, I mean, we've had this discussion. I'm tired. I'm doing a lot. I don't feel, but what I'm saying is we've grown, we've had discussions as husband and wife about it. And what I'm saying is some of these women, I guess, don't feel comfortable enough to have the sex conversation in their marriage. Mm-hmm. And that should be the one place that you are comfortable enough to have the conversation.
Absolutely.
And I'm saying that maybe they aren't comfortable enough to have it because they've been taught sex is taboo. Mm-hmm. And they don't even know how to talk about sex with their spouse.
There was a law, and I'm going to mess this up. There was a law that was passed dealing with people in the Army.
What?
Yeah, people in the Army that came back and had PTSD and didn't talk about it. I'm gonna mess this up, but it was a thing where they were told so much not to talk about it that they didn't know how to express it or how to talk about it, so they weren't held accountable for what they couldn't talk about.
And why is that a law?
Because I think it has something to do with insurance or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not explaining it right.
I don't think you are. But I get what you're saying. That's like what I was just saying earlier because I watched This Is Us, guys, and I was talking about it's one of the best shows ever. I was talking about Jack and Uncle Nicky, and I was like, hey, this storyline of men who were involved in the Vietnam War, I was like, this is a common thing that we see throughout any type of entertainment source, is that there's always these men who'd rather not give details about their experience in the war, like it was that traumatizing to them. Mm-hmm. And so on This Is Us, we just kind of see them coping with it by not really giving any real details. They just kind of give this like one happy memory and focus on that as something that always happened to shield their family and themselves, for that matter, from whatever happened. And in a marriage, you could have had bad experiences. You never know what somebody has gone through in their childhood. Mm-hmm. But if you don't talk about sex, what else is it hard for you to talk about in your marriage?
Yeah, but what I was trying to say is that if you grew up with that taboo that sex is bad, whenever you're sitting down and you're trying to have a conversation about that which was deemed bad for so long, mm-hmm. and that you were forbidden to even remotely think about or address, then it's impossible to just all of a sudden be open about it.
True.
So I think that you have to have a place where you can be open about sex. So in closing, where is that? Because what you don't want is to tell ladies to look at porn to figure out how to please your husband. And if you're not comfortable asking your husband what pleases you, what is it that you want, what do you want me to do, Big Daddy? If you're not comfortable with that kind of stuff, what do you suggest that women should do?
Christian women?
Yes.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, maybe they should talk to other married women. And, I'm not talking about in a nasty, dirty sense. But I do remember when we first started going to our church and the marriage ministry, like they had a session where the married women got to talk to some of the mothers. And sex was something that definitely came up. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had one mother, she was like, you got to do a little dance for him every once in a while. And I mean, it seemed kind of funny because, like you're picturing her doing a dance. But they were just giving healthy dialogue. healthy dialogue for being married. You know?
I don't want nobody dancing for me. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Okay, but
let's get it on.
I think the viewers and the listeners get what I'm saying.
Let's get it on.
You have to have a safe group or a safe person, a safe friend, safe prayer partner that is married.
Yeah.
You know, don't be talking about this with somebody that's not married and they giving you all the tricks in the book type thing. Like, and I could go somewhere totally different with that. That would take us back to last week's episode. But yeah, I would say they need a safe place where they can get some encouragement to talk about it. And ultimately, it's still leading them to go back to their husband to talk about it. And the vice versa with men. There might be some men that are shy about talking about sex with their wives.
I can see that because there is the thought, what if I'm not pleasing my wife?
And that's they should be enough, that they should already know what's going on.
That's a blow.
When the reality is, in the church, there are not always people who will have experience. There are still people who have had either very little experience or have actually kept themselves. And those are the people who really need to be talking to each other.
Yep. So all three of them need to come together.
3.
Yeah, because it ain't that many.
Okay. I know people who are still saving themselves.
And I'm just teasing. I hope there are more than 3. But it's a real thing out there. It really is. And I think, I mentioned this last week too, about having well-rounded ministries that see to the total man, because that, being able to please each other sexually in the relationship is a very important part of the relationship, regardless of what you think. It's important.
Definitely,
it's important. So if it's important, it needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed, and we have to have those avenues available. But don't come talking to me about it. I don't want to hear it. Amen.
What? I'm
worried about pleasing my house, my wife. What you doing after this?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to eat.
What you gonna eat?
Some food.
Tell them how to find us.
Okay, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Until Forever. You can subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And please give us a share and a comment, a like. And if you are listening on any of our podcast sources like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor, please give us a rating.
I know. Googler.
Everything is at Until Forever Podcast.
Yes, it is. Okay. Thank you, guys.
See you next week.
See you.